All right, great. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. This is the stuttering and dating scene would workshop or webinar. My name it is Tim Flynn. I am one of four people on the panel. What our general game plan was that each one of us were going to introduce ourselves and then share a bit about our personal story about being a person who stutters and did dating or being in a relationship. We have a few general topics that we were going to talk about, and then we were going to leave a fair amount of time at the and end to take quick questions from the audience and as well. Feel free to raise your hand or to type in the chat if you do have a question, and then if you do have a question about something specific that one of the panelists shared, feel free to ask right then instead of waiting until the end. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to try and not call somebody out on the panel, but whoever would like to start us off, if feel free to jump in.
Okay, I will, I guess. My name's Emily and Anderson, and I am single for the first time in a long time, so it's kind of interesting, like re emerging myself. And back when I was dating prior, I wasn't open about my stutter at all. So they never talked about it, so I never did. But this time around, I've really been leading with just being a genuine person and like your most truest self, and it will at least like weed them out quick. Like it's easy because you just have to be you, and we pick up on things quick, so you'll be able to spot the red flags a little bit easier. And I'm gonna pass it off to Derek.
Figured that was coming. the 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 anchor. Um, Thank you, Emily. I'm Derek Mitchell. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. I am 43 years old. I've been divorced for about 5.5 years and dating for about 4 of those post-divorce years. I'm 43. I live in Atlanta, and dating has always been a challenge. Having a stutter, I will say it's different being at this age group and being single again versus being single in my 20s and dating. Um, of course, it's still challenging as it is for um, most people, but the challenges have changed as I've gotten older. So I'm looking forward to sharing a bit about that and the differences between dating with a stutter in my 20s, um 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 versus in my 40s. And I think Emily is last,
Awesome.
but
Thank
certainly not least.
you. Hey friends, I'm Emily Garrison, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am 30 years old and single. Dating has looked a little bit different for me in the past, and I have been in short-term relationships, long-term relationships, dating with the purpose to hopefully get married and have a family one day. And similar to what Emily mentioned earlier, I think as we get older, definitely finding that you can weed people out quicker. And as you date, finding people that also appreciate the uniqueness that we bring to the table. I think that we can use it as a tool, even though it is really hard sometimes. So looking forward to this discussion with y'all. So with that, I'll pass it back to Tim.
Sure. Thank you all for sharing. To share a bit about my self. Now that Derek and Emily have both said their age, then now I feel prepared for pressure to do the same. So thank you, but both. So I am the 39. I live outside of the Washington D.C. area where I excuse me, work as a speech pathologist. I think it's interesting what everybody has shared so far, and I have several quick questions that I just the thought of going off of with what Emily just shared. Like definitely, in my 20s, I was dating just to date, and in my 30s, especially my late 30s, I'm definitely dating a bit more with purpose than now. I also just wanted to say, if there are people in the audience who do have quick questions, or if they feel that they may offend me, or says something thing else, please feel free to ask me whatever you like. I am pretty open about being a person who just stutters and did the dating. One of the questions that I kind of wanted to start us off at, and it's something that um, that that both and Emily Anderson and Emily Garrison mentioned. What you both made reference to how it is quote unquote easy to weed people and out, or certain red flags that might come up when you are looking to either go out on a date with somebody, or maybe go out on a second or third date. And I was hoping that you all could elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, so I'll start on that, and I guess I'll say my age too, thanks to him. I'm 32 and I live in Anchorage, Alaska. And I guess how people speak or ask about stuttering really goes a big way with me. Um, I tend to kind of bring it up first, but in a casual way. Like I said, I was gonna be joining this meeting, and that kind of just like started that conversation. And I have gotten people will ask about, oh, what should they do? They have a friend or a coworker that stutters, and then the next word really matters to me. If they said they have such a bad stutter, they suffer, or they like can't do anything, I kind of like take a mental note of that. But when they say they struggle with it, or they have a severe stutter, that like really goes a long way. And that happened. I went on a first date with a guy, not like just because of that, but it was someone I like didn't know at all, and I kind of like gave it a shot, and I tried to like pick up on like little green flags, and that was a total green flag of him saying he had a friend that has a severe stutter, and that he can really tell it affects his confidence. So that's kind of one way I weed them out.
Yeah, I can add to that a little bit. That was great. I think on top of that, I feel like people's initial reaction to, like, when you share with them, I think I have gotten kind of a mixed bag. I would say thankfully guys are generally pretty kind about it, but the one thing that I do typically or will get sometimes is people say that it's cute. They're like, "Oh, that's so cute," and they kind of minimize the um life experience that comes with that, and kind of the hardship that comes with it too sometimes. So I think that has been one thing that kind of sticks out to me as if they do try to minimize it, that for me, I'm just kind of like, I don't think so. But yeah, I think the way to, on the flip side, that people take an interest in it and how it affects your life, I tend to be very straightforward now, just about that being part of who I am, and also just my involvement with the NSA, and people that tend to value the things that make you you tend to ask follow-up questions. So those are some of the things that I look for too, and also a shared vulnerability back too. I think is huge, not trying to take away from your experience, but someone that's also willing to share with you kind of makes that like a two-way street. So
I want to,
Derek, do you have anything to add? Derek?
yeah, because I actually just had an experience with this, and it was kind of the first of its kind, really. So I mostly meet women on dating apps. So had met somebody on Hinge, and we had been texting for about a week, and then we had talked um about meeting up, and as I normally do, I just say, hey, just so you know, I have a stutter, so it won't catch you off guard when 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 um when 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 I meet you in person. Most times the response is just, okay, thanks for letting me know. But this time she started to ask a bunch of questions. She's an educator, so it may have been just from that point of view of just being curious about things. but she started to ask, does it affect this and this? And before I could even text her back, she was calling me because she was eager to hear my stutter. And I was creeped out immediately. I've never had that happen before. She was so eager to just hear it, and it didn't feel right. What I should have done is I should have, and there was some other red flags too. I should have just said that it was nice to meet you. This isn't going to work. It's not a good fit. But I still um met, met up with her, and the entire time she just had this look of confusion on her face, like she just could not adjust to it. And so that was a pretty odd experience. It's definitely an outlier, but definitely have not had someone to be that interested, but not in really a genuine way, but just more. um I wasn't. I don't use the word fetishizing because uh, it's a bit strong, but but it felt as if it was in that realm, and so it was just very uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's thank you for sharing. I don't necessarily. I mean, I try and take it person by per person. I tend to be a bit understanding if people may not use the or what I would consider the right vocab when talking about tutoring. Like I may be the first person they meet who's just dudders. So I definitely have had several people say like if I do let people know prior to them hearing me speak, they'll and ask, oh well, how bad it is it, or something like that. So after I start to talk a bit about it, if they still kind of stay on that side on that same like mindset, then I am less inclined to want to kind of continue to speak with them. I, as I'm sure all people on the panel and all the people listening who stutter have had a wide array of reactions like Derek. I have had people who did seem who did seem oddly and excited to hear Mimi speak, and then on the other side of things, I would say that I stutter, and then I find that people have like a preconceived notion of like what that sounds like. And most of the time, people classify stuttering as like a very mild repetition or something like that. To when I show up to the date and I start to block or stutter more than what that preconceived notion was, then sometimes there is a bit of pushback that there. I always appreciate people who ask quick questions. I always appreciate people who try to come from a spot of understanding. I did have one date recently where we definitely were texting a lot prior. We had a good rapport. I had spoken about stuttering with her. We went out on the date. The restaurant was a bit noisy for whatever reason that always makes me stutter quite a bit more because I always feel like I have to compete with all of the background noise. And about halfway through the date, she asked me, "Oh, so you had mentioned that stuttering is not something that like always happens. Would you say like is is this about how much you stutter or all of the time?" And um while it was not true, I just said yes, justice, so I could gauge her reaction, and she did look a bit concerned, so I chose not to seek out a second date with her. Um, One of the other questions that or one of the questions that we wanted to share, which is more of a general question, but how has stuttering impacted you? Did dating or in past relationships that can be just like the back and forth conversations with somebody that could be first impressions, or that also could be your willingness to maybe ask somebody out or agree to go out with somebody in the first place.
And you can go.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to process that, Tim. I think something something that I found in just going on dates with people versus like a longer term relationship is that and I think this is similar to what someone just put in the chat about talking to someone new can be more difficult when you have blocks because people will look at you weird. And I think there is like a learning curve, not only up front, but there's also a learning curve when someone not only accepts you for who you are, but then is having to learn how that impacts your daily life. I think that is a very different, like we talk a lot about disclosing, like in navigating those initial conversations, but there's also then that kind of next wave that comes when someone is learning how to integrate into your life that can be a little bit different and unique. So I think sometimes even if someone has accepted my stutter before up front, they are still having to learn, like in what scenarios is it better or worse. And I say that in quotes because I don't like to say it's worse in certain situations. It's just how we talk. But they're learning to navigate that too. And so I think that is also something that's worth discussion. And yeah, I would be curious to hear from Derek and Emily on that too, just like a longer term relationship and someone learning how to kind of integrate into your life.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure how to answer this, but when I think of like the initial meeting someone and having that like almost first conversation, I feel like is easy, but the hard part for me is like conveying the complexities of everyday life type of thing. Like it may be easy to understand, oh yeah, I may repeat sounds and it may take me a little bit longer to get stuff out. But what I really want the person I'm dating to understand is all the things that go along with with that. Like it's going to influence what I order at a a restaurant. It's going to have an influence of my mental state. If I know I'm going to be leading a meeting, of just understanding that it's so much more than just speaking.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most difficult things about being single again, is having to go through that recurring process of introducing your speech to someone else, and having to explain everything that um entails, and the effects of it on your daily life. Um, I'm kind of at a point now where I kind of don't go into all of that. If I meet someone and they seem to be genuinely comfortable with how I speak, um, I don't really go into any detail about how it might impact me. If it gets really serious, then at that point I probably would start to pull the curtain back a little bit, because um eventually I will um have a bad day, and they might have to deal with me on that day. So I don't want it to catch them off guard, like, why is Derek in a bad mood? So I will start to pull the curtain back a little bit as it gets more serious, but um, I still don't go into as much detail as I used to, because I used to feel the need to have the woman that I'm with to fully understand my speech and all the intricacies of how it's impacted me from childhood until now. But I don't feel that need anymore. The only requirement that I have is that they're comfortable with it. And if they're comfortable with it, then it's fine. And so I just leave it at that. But still, it is difficult to go through that process every time of introducing yourself and your speech to someone. But I will say that that it has gotten a lot easier, but it's still a challenge. And my my preference would to be, for that reason, would to be in something that were um 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 long term, and avoid having to go through that to, time and time again.
Yeah, I think you phrased that really well, where you're not just introducing yourself to somebody new, you're also introducing your specific speech to somebody new to I'd say my stuttering drastically impacted me from a dating standpoint when I was in my 20s. I was incredibly unwilling to ever go up and talk to somebody new, even if I was talking to somebody from like a dating app standpoint, I was always like scared to kind of like, oh, when is this person going to hear me stutter? When is the other shoe going to dread drop? That mentality definitely shifted when I was in um when I was in my 30s a bit. I always appreciate people, like I said earlier, people who would ask questions, people would try to have an understanding. And I've had several people ask me like, well, how can I support you? And I really, really appreciated that as well. There have been, I'm always nervous. I'm less nervous about stuttering in front of somebody that I'm dating. I'm more nervous about stuttering to a third party and that third party having an adverse reaction in front of the person I'm on a date with or a person who I'm in a relationship with. That still to this day gives me an anxiety because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable because of somebody else's reaction. One of like, and this is just something that was pretty meaningful to me at the time. But a couple years ago, I was in a relationship with somebody. It was only like a third date, somewhere around there, and we went out in DC to an art show or something like that, and I had to check in and give my name to get the tickets, and the person who was who I was talking to just flat out laughed in my face. So I kept to talking, said that I stuttered. The person apologized, and when the interaction was done, I turned to my date, and I have never seen her more mad in the entire length of that relationship, and she really wanted to go and after that per person. And while I, of course, did not want that to take place, a small part of me did. But that was something that I did definitely appreciate it. Something else I just want to say for the group too. If if anybody in the audience has something that they would like to share about one of these topics, please feel free to raise your hand to share and we will call on you. One of the other questions we had, and I think this is an important one: when or how do you share that you stutter with somebody that you are first starting to go out with?
For me, I think it's definitely varied by stage of life. I feel like earlier on when I was just kind of learning to disclose, it would definitely be a little bit later, even to the point where they could tell that I was stuttering, obviously, but I just didn't really say anything about it. And then now, I think Derek brought it up earlier, but if you're using the apps, feeling comfortable sharing that, but before you go out with somebody, just so they know. I typically now will wait until it comes up in conversations. Like if I'm out with someone when I block for the first time, I'll just tell them what's going on, which is a little bit of a riskier thing because you're already out with them, you're already on the date. So that is definitely one where it's just kind of personal preference. But yeah, sometimes having to kind of do the pre-work before you get there can be a little tiring. And so once you get there, also I find it easier to just for me in general, sometimes it's easier for me to address when people can actually see and hear what's going on so that they don't have like preconceived ideas like you guys had mentioned about how I sound, like, or what it's like. It's just a little bit easier to address when it's actually happening. So that's kind of more so how I handle it.
Yeah. I tend to well, because I mostly am meeting people on dating apps. I will always text them that I have a stutter. But one thing that I also do is that before I meet someone in person, I make sure that we have at least one phone call so that they can hear it. And that is a good and even though it's over the phone and I can't see them, I can kind of sense how they're taking it and if they're comfortable or, or not, or if they're just turned off by it. And it's been some cases where they didn't say it, but I could just tell as soon as they heard it, all the attraction was gone immediately. With, with which I'm happy that I could find that out over a phone call than going out and meeting someone in person and wasting that time. So for me, it's making sure that I have a phone call and that before I meet someone in person just to make sure that they not only know that I stutter, but to give them an opportunity to actually hear it and to be able to engage their reaction.
Um, it's kind of interesting because like this is the first time I've been single in like 10 years or so, and it's been like 6 months or so, and I haven't used dating apps yet, and I'm about to move, so I'm probably gonna have to get one of those started up because I won't know anyone. But so I don't really tell people right off the bat, mostly because I feel like I somehow they already know, like I know them enough for them to know, but I won't really just flat out tell them I'm a person that stutters. It is more of if I'm going to bring it up and it's not in person, so they can hear it for themselves. I'll either talk about the Alaska chapter or the conference, or one of my friends that I've met through the stuttering world. And I feel like when I do bring it up and bring it up in that type of way, it it kind of shows them that um it it's not a big deal as in downplaying it, but I'm presenting it in a way that it's not going to be a problem, or it won't be your problem, I guess.
I always, especially now, I will always let somebody know that I stutter prior to meeting them for the first time. Derek is very brave in that he wants to have a phone call first. I would much rather meet somebody face to face and have them see me stutter first prior to talking to them on the phone. I have had a handful of times where I meet somebody on a dating app and then we exchange phone numbers and then out of the blue they could call me and it's like all of the oxygen in my body leaves, right? And sometimes I will answer the phone. Sometimes I will purposely miss the phone call and then try and quickly to bring up into the conversation that I stutter and then have that phone call. But I think that is, I think it's interesting that we all kind of have our own take on it to like win or even if you do bring it up at all. I have not mentioned it before and brought it up on the first date. Sometimes that's worked out and sometimes it very much has not. So
Tim, just
yeah,
want to clarify real quick. It's not bravery. I'm watching my money because dating is not cheap. And at some point in time,
fair.
I kept spending money on failed dates, and I was like, I need a better process. This is not going to work. So,
Derek, can I to tell you that has never crossed my mind. And if you had told me that, like prior to right now, you could have saved me hundreds, if not thousands, of the dollars. But no, that's a really interesting point. I see somebody raising their hand. We're words, so feel free to ask or to feel free to ask a question or share some thoughts.
Hi. So I was about to ask a question, but I saw that there were actually already a lot of the exact same question was in the chat, but no turning back now. Yeah, so I just I asked this question, I guess, because it's only because it's been a while since I've been on a date, but that if anyone here dated someone who hit the stutter, because I guess they already have that un understanding.
Yeah, great, quick question. Whoever wants to jump in, feel free.
I have briefly dated another person that stutters, and I found it nice just in like the similarities. Like I didn't feel like I had to explain why something was harder than you than usual, or just the physical toll it takes to be stuttering so much in a day, and why that might make us exhausted type of thing. But yeah, I found it a little bit easier just of having that common ground.
and actually, um, Pam just put that that question in the chat as well. Yeah, I dated somebody who had a stutter. She was not involved with the NSA or any other organization, and she was very much covert and very ashamed of her speech as well. And it created a conflict. I thought it was perfect. Like I mean, because we're both introverts to a large extent. We both have a stutter. I thought this was perfect, but I think that because I I was a place when I met her where I was very open about it, and she wasn't. I think that sometimes she would get embarrassed when I would stutter in public when we were out together, and eventually it led to a pretty bad argument that kind of ended it. So I think it just depends on not just dating someone who has a stutter, but also their mindset and their feelings about it as well. Because you could find somebody who deals with the same challenge in a very different way, and it's going to cause the conflict. So I think it just depends. It's um another layer of common ground that has got to be there in order for it to be compatible.
Yeah, I would say mine was probably more similar to um that, Derek, in that for us it was harder. I think it was the highs were high and the lows were really low, like we were both having a rough season. So, but I also want to mention that I just think that that speaks to just our humanity too, and not necessarily just stuttering, is finding someone that you're compatible with can be like a pretty broad thing. So I think just as we talk through this, like I don't know if people should necessarily be looking for, is it easier to date someone that's stutters or is it not, and look at the person as a whole. Because if they're like, if they don't have a healthy mindset with their speech, then that might be stemming into other areas of their life too. So yeah.
I also have dated people who stutter in the past. What's interesting is I didn't know they stuttered until after we started dating. And two women in particular come to mind, both of whom were covert. One of whom was so covert, I truly didn't know that she um stuttered until like a couple weeks after knowing her, like coming home one night from like going out, and we were like getting some like late night food, and she just started to like tell me about how she used to stutter, and then she was actually like, oh, she was like openly stuttering, and she would tell me how that I just need to kind of push it down, and if you force it down, then it won't affect you. And we had this really frankly shocking conversation about it, and we just had completely different mentalities of how we each kind of coped with it. And then the other woman, I could tell that she stuttered, but she always spoke about her stuttering in the past tense. and I could catch on to all of her like avoidance behaviors and everything else. And she had kids, and I remember asking her, "Oh, did you tell your kids that I stutter?" So she said, "Yeah," and I said, "Oh, well, what was their reaction?" To where the younger child, who was around like 7 or 8 at the time, said, oh." Does he talk like you used to, mommy, right? And it was just it was difficult because I'm so open about my stuttering, and I'm not going to hide it in front of her kids, except she would hide it in front of her own kids. So it was helpful across multiple ways, but it was also a bit complicated too. We have about 15 more minutes. I had a handful of questions that I wanted us to get to, but but if anybody does have a question in the audience, please feel free to ask. Emily, is there something you wanted to share?
Do you say Emily's?
No, and Emily and Dursin, because you unmuted your mic.
I just been doing that off and on, but
Oh, okay.
I think I was gonna add that I wonder if I have to, now I'm like scared I'm gonna date a covert stutterer that hasn't dealt with his bullshit. Like,
Right?
is that
Fear
something I need to
unlocked.
fear now?
You are welcome for having the new fear unlocked. So,
Sweet. I can't wait. But since I have the floor, Tim, I have a question for
yeah.
you. Um, I am asking this question through personal experiences. It was strange being with my ex. We were together for like 10 years, and I was with him when I kind of came out as a person that stutters, and he was so supportive of it. He would really like to, now I kind of see it as like showing me off, like, oh, my person stutters but still does XYZ. But so at first he had a lot of pride, and then it kind of turned to, I can't hear about this and anymore type of thing. And especially you being a speech pathologist, I'm wondering if the people you date ever get just overwhelmed with the stuttering world, or if there's a threshold there.
So I think the people who I date seriously know it's a large part of my life, both professionally and personally. But one of the and this was one of the questions I was going to ask, but like one of the positive things of being somebody who stutters through from like a dating standpoint is that it is really where my passion is, and passion is an attractive quality, and I definitely feel the same way in people that I date. I love hearing about people's passions. I think I have had times where I want to have like a more in-depth conversation, and people are a bit short about it. Like they might be a bit tired of hearing about it. I do think sometimes people um, initially want to kind of show the best side of themselves, so they almost try to like. I'm not saying that people like overcompensate, right? But sometimes people to kind of make themselves look in the best light may may appear more interested than they actually are. So I have had that happen a couple of times. But I mean, truth be told, like if somebody's not as interested in hearing about it, that's fine. It is a large part of my life, though. So I'm gonna still talk about it, and if that's gonna be a problem long term, then we can talk about that. But if it's kind of one of those things where it's like a make it or break it thing, then maybe it would be best for us to kind of part ways. But those are just my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that question.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that affected um my marriage, is because I didn't find the NSA until after I had met my ex-wife. So effectively who she met and who I was at the end of it was um very different. And so at one point in time, my entire life revolved around the NSA and Toastmasters, and both of those, were tied to my speech and my and really coming to a point of acceptance. And at one point in time, she just told me, "Look, I don't want to go to any more of those meetings. Like that's your thing. That's fine. I get it, but." Because at that point in time, she had um, been to several of our chapter meetings and our activities. She had came to one of the conferences when it was here in Atlanta, and I think it was just too much. And I can't blame her, because that was a curveball, because that was something that neither of us saw being a big change in my life, was finding the NSA and having to finally deal with my speech in my mid 30s. So it was definitely a big change for both of us, but at a certain um um point, she just was tapped out, and she could support from afar, but she couldn't be in this world with me. And so yeah, so it did have a big impact.
Yeah, so like when I was dating my now wife, I was already involved with the NSA. So she was very quickly introduced, and she did come to a couple conferences. So she got to understand what it was, and she got to meet everyone. But at this point, she kind of realizes that the NSA is kind of like my thing and my world. And yes, we can talk about it and all of that, but she isn't as she's not as involved with all of it. Um, but she is very supportive of it. So
And I think that's such a big difference of like what we need. Like I personally don't need my partner to be attending meetings with me, or like being in this world, like, because that's a big thing, and like I don't really need you to, but what I need you to is to listen and to just like give a little bit of shit about what I'm saying. And Emily, I remember asking you at the conference, kind of related to this, because I just wanted to talk about what I was learning in the workshops and in stuff. And I remember I asked you like how much you talk about it. And I remember you were like surprised me asking, and the my response type of thing. Or that I would even need to ask that.
No, it was more so just like as a friend wanting to know that you're with someone that supports you and wants to hear out what's actually happening. And that also goes back to just personal preference and what you need in a partner too. So yeah, I think definitely Derek, thank you for sharing that, because I know that's a really personal story and just part of your life. And that also just shows too a lot about how our relationship with our speech can also shift and change too. And so needing to be with somebody that can be flexible with that.
Great. Thank you all for sharing. I did see in the chat that somebody wanted to ask a quick question. Sam, feel free to either type your question. Feel free to either type your question in the chat or unmute yourself and ask.
Great. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask another question about dating apps. Derek, I know you mentioned using them, but question is for anybody. I think one of the challenges with dating apps is that there's a big difference between getting to know somebody over text as opposed to getting to know somebody in person, and kind of dating apps force you to do both of those. Like I find that, over the years I've become really good at texting. Like it's not hard for me to be personable or funny or charming or friendly. And in a way that's, I feel that I think of it as almost like unintentionally catfishing somebody, because I find that I sometimes end up creating an expectation that I have a hard time measuring up to when we meet face to face. When I'm struggling with the communication barrier, it's hard for me to be the same way in person as I was over text. And I noticed that even if I do disclose in advance, which I do more often than not, not always, but most of the time. So when I am texting somebody and I'm being genuine, I mean, I'm not just kind of putting on a show or saying what I think they want to hear. That's really me. But so is the side of me that's stuttering and struggling to communicate. So I feel that I have these kind of two sides of myself that are on the surface very different and kind of at odds with each other. So and I think I really struggled to bridge the gap. So just wondered if any of you had any thoughts about that.
I have some thoughts, real quick. So I definitely know what you mean, and I kind of referenced it slightly earlier, where sometimes I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Where we had like this really great back and forth quick with it rapport via text, and I know there's no way that I could keep up with like this fast-paced conversation phase to phase. I try not to kind of box myself in like that, because while there may have been some things quote unquote gained via text, there most definitely are things that cannot be gained via text that are gained face to face, right? One of the positive things of stuttering from a dating standpoint I have found is people have responded well to me in the past of me being willing to kind of show my vulnerability and talk openly about it, and then people feel more inclined to share something personal about themselves too. And to me, that is really done from a face-to-face standpoint.
Sam, I just want to really validate that feeling too, because I have felt that for sure before. I feel like sometimes is especially on an app, or if you've been set up with someone and you're texting some before you go out, I definitely feel like a little bit more of an outgoing version of me. And I found too that sometimes when I am caught off guard and people ask for a phone call, or even if we've been dating for a little bit, I have to kind of explain that sometimes over the phone, I just am a little bit more, I feel like I'm a little bit more awkward, and I don't really know how to kind of like keep up with the banter, or like the cadence of conversation. So I think it definitely goes back to like, we just require a little bit more patience from somebody, and just getting to know us, and the complexities that make us who we are just take a little bit more time sometimes. So all right, I know we have a hard stop at 8:15. Any closing thoughts or questions before we jump?
I would just like to thank everybody for attending, and kind of real quick going off of with what Molly just shared. While it is important kind of have it is important with somebody to have patience with us, and for us to have patience with somebody else. I also think it's important for us to have patience with ourselves too. But once more, thank you all for attending. I hope and everybody enjoyed it.